Today is a good day. I am so happy that I was incorrect, that my suspicion that, and it wasn't just my suspicion, my very educated opinion based off of the opinions of many lawyers that I've been listening to, seemed to indicate that the most likely outcome for the Kyle Rittenhouse trial was going to be a mistrial via a hung jury. Because it didn't look like these folks were, after all these days, and after the polling that was done by Richard Barris, that seemed to indicate, hey, this is going the way that he expected. If you had a random jury, and there's going to be a mistrial, and importantly, a mistrial without prejudice, because if the jury just can't reach a verdict, they can't reach a verdict, and so the state would have a chance to try again, and we'd have to go through Kyle would have to go through all of this again. But that didn't happen. The jury acquitted him on all counts today. A little bit after lunch, or I guess right around lunchtime. You're probably pretty hungry. And that rumored juror 54, or that rumored holdout juror, rogue juror, whatever you want to call him. I don't really like the term rogue juror. The woman who I believe was the one who asked to take the jury instructions home last night and review them, came around today. And it seems like she joined the rest of the jurors and said, you know what, we're going to acquit on all counts. And I'm very happy that they held out long. I would rather this take a long time and have them reach all acquittals than to, come back quicker and compromise on, one of the lesser includeds. But, the reason why that was less likely in this case, perhaps, than others, is because there is so much emotion on both sides. People either think Kyle is totally guilty or he's totally innocent. And somebody who thinks he's totally innocent is not going to say, hey, why don't we compromise and only put him away for 10 years in prison rather than life? And so despite all of the machinations of the prosecutors in which they had underhanded tactics where they infringed upon Kyle's Fifth Amendment rights, upon his Sixth Amendment rights, in my opinion, upon the way that they introduced evidence improperly. They only gave the defense super low-res 212p version of that video that was the linchpin of the whole case, that was supposed to prove that Kyle provoked the attack by Rosenbaum. And despite the judge giving the prosecutor all these warnings and the judge passing up opportunities to dismiss the case with prejudice, in which he should have dismissed it, but the judge was stern. He said, no, it seemed like he wanted to prove that the jury process would come to the right conclusion, that this case is so obvious that there's no way that he could be found guilty, even if the prosecutors did a bunch of bad stuff. Now, to me, it's a bigger problem that the prosecutors were allowed to get away with this stuff regardless of the verdict. The prosecutors should not be allowed to get away with what they did. But the judge had a different priority because he understood the country was watching this, that the media was all over him. He was very upset with CNN and MSNBC, as we heard. He banned MSNBC from the courtroom because of their conduct of, intimidating the jury, which, again, is a violation of Kyle's Fifth Amendment right and probably would have justified a mistrial, by itself. But again, despite all that, they still found him not guilty, which again is a testament that after having all the odds stacked against him, that he was still found not guilty on all counts, really shows you how innocent he really was. So I'm very happy to be wrong. I'm sure everybody who was wrong about it, being a hung jury versus full acquittals, very happy to be wrong. Now, the people who thought and believed, wholeheartedly that this should have been, conviction across the board, I'm sure they're going to be seething tonight. I'm sure they're going to be crying their eyes out. I'm sure there's going to be, primetime specials on CNN and MSNBC and all the networks about how racism is alive and well in America. But at the end of the day, they cannot put Kyle behind bars. Now, if I were Kyle, first thing I would do, now that this case is done, is I would get the hell out of Wisconsin. I would flee Kenosha. I would move somewhere else. I mean, maybe you don't have to leave Wisconsin totally, but get away from whatever's about to happen, because that town is going to be in. There could be big problems tonight. Who knows? I mean, I don't know how organized the community organizers have been in the Midwest. I don't know if there are people amassed ready to riot in case of the wrong verdict. But we shall see tonight. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But despite the threat of that, the jurors still found him not guilty, knowing that the mob is, potentially going to rise up against them. These jurors, as sad as it is, probably should flee their homes as well, go into like some kind of witness protection program, move far away, abandon your careers, cut your hair, dye your hair, put on Groucho Marx glasses, change your name, do everything you can to hide from the mob, because they're going to be coming at you with both barrels, as they used to say. So there's not a whole lot to say about this that I haven't already said in the past. I guess I'm just here to express adulation, relief, and I guess congratulations. Because this was much more about Kyle, or this was about much more than just Kyle and his life, although that was obviously the most important thing, but also had ramifications for the rest of us. A case like this, that is this cut and dry, should not be even questionable in terms of self-defense in this country. If we have a right to self-defense, there's no way that Kyle could ever be convicted. And if he can be convicted for this, then any of us can be convicted for this. So that's why this is a huge win for every individual across the country who may ever need to defend themselves, or at least wants to feel like they can defend themselves if the situation ever arises in which they need to. Because if you know that Kyle got convicted for this, you're probably going to be you might be so hesitant to use force in your own self-defense that you let somebody who's attacking you actually kill you. Because if Kyle had hesitated even for a second longer in any of these cases, he likely would have been killed by any one of these three guys, whether it's Huber, Grosskreutz, or Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum and Huber tried to grab the gun. If Kyle had waited just a little further, then one of those two guys, would have been able to get the gun, and they would have been able to take it and kill him. And in the case of Grosskreutz had his gun pointed at Kyle. If Kyle had waited just, a second longer, Grosskreutz might have been able to get a shot off at him. And I think anyone who looks at that and really puts themselves in Kyle's shoes probably thinks that, at least if you're being honest with yourself, that you would have not been able to show 1/10 of the amount of restraint that Kyle showed in that situation. Literally, the only people who he fired his weapon at were on top of him and were an imminent threat to his life. And he did not fire once those three threats, once they were neutralized, he ceased firing, and he did not fire at anyone else until they literally got right on top of him. It's very hard to do. After somebody's just tried to kill you and other people come at you, your instinct is going to be to shoot anybody you see, because you start to see everybody as a threat when you see these people all flying at you trying to kill you. And so almost anyone else in this situation would have had a tougher case to make than Kyle did. And so if even he couldn't win against the state with his facts of this situation, then none of us could. It's an insurmountable burden. But now that it's over, now that the verdict is in, we can all breathe a sigh of relief. And I think not rest on our laurels, definitely not that. But we should be happy for a day. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.